This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A random attack inside a Winnipeg church has left police searching for a motive. During a Sunday evening service, a man tried to attack a pastor with a knife. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has the latest.
This is a video showing a man attacking a pastor during a church service. The incident took place at Holy Ghost Parish between Pritchard and Selkirk Avenue yesterday at 6 p.m. According to Winnipeg police, the man, armed with a knife, approached the altar during the service and tried to assault the 38-year-old pastor. The pastor managed to get away. Then the suspect drove the knife into the altar and sat in a chair at the back. An off-duty police officer and other church attendees detained the man until he was taken into custody. Constable Stephen Spencer says this was extremely unexpected.
It was quite shocking. I think everybody involved is really set back and very uneasy about what happened. Definitely a shocking experience for anybody that would be involved, whether it's the pastor or the congregation.
Spencer says the attack was not targeted. A 50-year-old man has been arrested and charged with several offences, including assault with a weapon. Police say the suspect is known to them. RCMP confirmed that the officer who got hold of the suspect is a Mountie who was off duty, and the second individual is not a police officer. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba government is giving schools across the province a boost in funding. This year's increase is the same as last year's. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, every division is guaranteed to get more money.
February is like the most fun month at school.
Education Minister Tracy Schmidt got a warm reception from students at Bernie Wolf School. This after she announced a 3.4% increase in the annual operating grant schools get from the province.
I think that folks will be really excited about our school funding announcement this year.
This means Manitoba schools will split an additional $53.1 million in operating dollars next school year. There was a 3.4% increase for this current school year too, which amounted to a $51.5 million increase. The province is continuing its $30 million nutrition programming with an additional $6.8 million coming from the federal government.
Furthermore, we're going to protect that school nutrition funding into law coming into this next session. So I'd say that was a pretty big change to our school funding formula.
Every school division is guaranteed an increase with hikes of between 1 and 9.8%. To help schools with declining enrollment, the province says funding will now be calculated on the highest number of students over a 3-year period instead of using the previous school year. Manitoba School Boards Association President Sandy Nemeth is happy with the spending increase, but says the new funding formula won't help growing divisions.
For example, in the fall of 2025, 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 students arriving, their funding is based on a scenario where those students weren't in the school division.
Nemeth says there's still a significant need for new capital funding. The government did announce a new kindergarten to grade 8 school will be built here in Devonshire Park. River East Transcona School Division Board Chair Colleen Carswell says there's a need for more space for new students.
We've been experiencing unprecedented growth over the last while.
The minister says there's more work to do on tweaking how education is paid for in this province. That's why Schmidt says the government is reestablishing a stakeholder advisory group on school funding. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Indigenous leaders are calling it historic and a long time coming. First Nations children and families affected by the On-Reserve Child and Family Services System can soon apply for compensation. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel brings us more.
It's 18 years in the making. First Nations children who were removed from their families and placed in Child and Family Services over a 31-year period can soon apply for $40,000 in compensation.
While no amount of money can make up for the harms done or for your childhood, this $23 billion compensation settlement, the largest in Canada's history, is an important acknowledgement of the harm First Nations experienced in this racist system.
The federal court approved the class action settlement agreement in 2023. It was for children and families who experienced racial discrimination through Ottawa's chronic underfunding of the First Nations Child and Family Services program. Children and caregivers eligible under the first 2 classes out of 9 included in the settlement can apply for compensation starting next month.
If you were removed from your home as a child between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, while living on reserve or in the Yukon and placed into care funded by Indigenous Services Canada, or if you're a caregiving parent or grandparent of a child that was removed, this claims process launch beginning March 10th is for you.
The compensation is an important step forward for advocate Mary Burton.
A lot of these people, including myself, are from the 60s scoop. And of course, this isn't going to take care of all the hurt and trauma that was suffered, but it's going to help families who are struggling.
First Nations leaders are encouraging potential applicants to get their documents ready. They're also warning about bad actors who may want to take advantage of claimants.
We want you to all be aware you do not need to hire a lawyer. You do not need to pay anyone to help you submit a claim.
The administrator of the claims process, Deloitte, says compensation for applicants could come within 6 to 12 months of filing a claim. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba Hydro is reviving a plan to charge people different rates for electricity at different times of day. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, the Crown Corporation is conducting a survey about the idea.
In the middle of the winter, Manitobans use a lot of electricity. Manitoba Hydro is starting to consider a way to get people to use less. In 2023, Hydro floated the idea of offering customers a discount for using electricity at off-peak hours. Hydro is now asking 1,200 Manitobans what they think of the idea.
Time of use can allow customers to save money on their bill by adjusting when they're using energy at less peak times. The technology could also allow Hydro to read meters more accurately, to bill more accurately, to know immediately and exactly where outages are. So overall, it's intended to save money, which could not only save money on customers' bills, but save Hydro money when it comes to not having to expand capacity as quickly as we might otherwise have to.
A looming electricity crunch means Hydro must spend billions to build up generating capacity and build new transmission lines. Hydro also has to spend billions more to fix up its aging existing infrastructure. The NDP government's top priority, though, is freezing electricity rates.
The whole reason that we have Manitoba Hydro is so that we have affordable electricity rates.
Manitoba's official opposition says that's unwise.
A rate freeze today will mean rate shock tomorrow for Manitobans.
Lauren Stone called variable rates surge pricing. That's the same language Wab Kinew used during the 2023 election. There is no plan just yet for variable rates. If that idea comes forward, it would have to come before the Public Utilities Board. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Manitoba woman is fighting to have her sister's death investigated as a homicide. Her sister was found unconscious outside on a freezing cold night, and it was later discovered she was covered in bruises. 50-year-old April Woodhouse was found on January 31st, lying at the doorstep of a home in Pinemutang First Nation. Passerbys who found her started doing CPR. She later died in hospital. The family says they were told she had internal injuries.
My sister was beaten and left for dead. She would not ever in her life to go and lay down on someone's steps face down. Never. She lived so close. She always went home when she would go someplace. She would always go home no matter how late it was.
The temperature plunged to -26 the night she was found. So far, no cause of death has been determined. Police are awaiting autopsy results. CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk in. And Riley, I don't like that color behind you because I know what it means.
It's a very winter color, Brittany. It's very, I don't want to say calming, but very cold looking is what I'll say. So extreme cold warnings in place for most of southern Manitoba, much of central parts of the province, including Winnipeg, Brandon through Westman into the Parkland region. We're looking at low temperatures near -30, wind chill making it feel closer to -40, and we're looking at a multi-day event here, really cooling us down over the next several days. And in fact, even the longer range models keeping us below seasonal. That's thanks to high pressure that's setting in. A ridge of high pressure will clear skies. It's actually left us with a mainly sunny sky really across the province and across much of Western Canada today. A little bit of cloud cover, a few stray flurries out of some of this cloud cover throughout the day today. But other than that, we were looking at a mainly sunny sky throughout the day today. So down to -30 in Winnipeg tonight, still a little bit breezy overnight tonight. Wind chill in the morning, making it feel closer to -41, -29 the actual temperature in the morning, and then looking at a mostly sunny -20 by the afternoon. Brittany, this is 11 degrees colder than seasonal for this time of the year. We'll talk about how long this will last when I come back in a bit.
It really puts it in perspective. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How a group of men are making space for open and honest conversations about mental health, breaking down stigma and barriers. That comes after the break. How did you answer the last time someone asked you how you were doing? Odds are you said good or fine really regardless of how you actually felt. For young men especially, it can be hard for them to have discussions about how they're really doing. CBC's Gavin Axelrod takes us to Winnipeg University, where students are trying to make those discussions easier. And a warning, this story deals with suicide, which may be upsetting for some viewers.
This tattoo is one of the ways Vebo Varma honors the memory of his younger brother Yash. The Roman numerals are his birthday, with his signature over top.
He's always here. He's always with me.
Yash died by suicide in 2023. He was 16 years old. Varma says his brother was the smartest person you'd ever meet. He'd stay up late helping his friends with physics, but also loved acting and photography, and could solve a Rubik's Cube quickly too, and taught himself how to juggle.
The fact that my brother was struggling this much, it was completely unexpected to everyone.
Now, the 22-year-old is turning grief into action. He switched majors from political science to psychology with the goal of one day being a clinical psychologist, and recently started a men's wellness club at the University of Manitoba called Men's Wellness Circle U of M.
If my brother was struggling and no one knew about it, I was struggling in my own way after my brother's death. There are plenty of other students who are in the same boat, or are simply looking for someone to chat with.
Statistics Canada says just 3 years ago, the suicide rate for men was almost 3 times the rate among women. Varma says young men face a lot of pressure and don't always feel comfortable talking about it. Barış Tavis is an international student from Turkey and dreams of going to med school. Tavis says while he has a strong support network, it's not so easy for others his age to speak up if they need help.
There's a stigma about the mental health and men showing emotions. They see it as a sign of weakness.
But those vulnerable conversations are happening. This barbershop at the university was packed to standing room only in late January. Students and community members came together for an event addressing mental health and anti-Black racism. It also honored Afolabi Opaso, a 19-year-old international student who went to the university who was shot and killed by Winnipeg police in 2023. According to his family, he was in the midst of a mental health crisis at the time. University of Manitoba professor Warren Clark and some of his students helped organize this barbershop talk.
Black men and boys specifically, there's many spaces that, we can't be vulnerable. We have this idea, this stereotypical idea, which is negative, that you ought to be strong, you ought to not cry.
Clark says in previous barbershop talks, the conversation was set for a couple hours, but would end up going longer and even outside the shop once people started to connect, an indicator of just how important the space can be for those who attend.
And understanding that being vulnerable is not necessarily a bad thing as long as you're safe in being vulnerable to share how you feel.
Meanwhile, Men's Wellness Circle U of M is up and running. More than a dozen people showed up for the first event at the end of January. Some of the club's members were Yash's friends, and Varma says he misses him every day, but knows he'd be proud of the work he's doing now and aspires to do in the future. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
You can access crisis referral services by calling the 24-hour support line on your screen, 1-866-925-4419, or by heading to hopeforwellness.ca. Riley, a few weeks ago we were talking about your Riley's roller coaster and that weather department. I feel like we've really just been stuck at the bottom of it for way too long now with these really, really cold temperatures.
It's not letting up either.
No.
We're looking at an extended multi-day period.
It's just here.
I'm sorry.
So as we continue to really stare down this cold snap, you really have to wonder, is it even a Canadian winter if we don't discuss wind chill?
Exactly. Canada actually played a leading role in establishing how we measure the wind chill. Have a look at this. If you live in Canada, then you know that winter and wind chill are like birds of a feather.
The wind chill is what the air temperature feels like when the wind blows on human skin. Your body naturally loses heat in the cold. The stronger the wind, the faster it cools skin's temperature and eventually the temperature of your body.
The temperature is taken into account when measuring things like the wind chill. That's why you hear weather specialists saying things like,
and with the wind chill, it feels like between -30 and -40.
-2, -3, but with the wind chill, it's about -10 or -12.
So cold it feels like -50 with the wind chill.
Canada played a leading role in creating the wind chill index in the early aughts by advocating for the creation of an international measurement for wind chill and hosting a meeting about it. Shortly after, a team of scientists and medical experts met and conducted experiments like exposing the faces of volunteers to a variety of temperatures and wind speeds inside of a refrigerated wind tunnel. After the research was examined, the wind chill index was born. Through the index, we learned that with a wind chill of -28 to -39, skin freezes in 10 to 30 minutes. With a wind chill of -40 to -47, your skin will freeze in 5 to 10 minutes. And when the wind chill drops to -48 to -54, your skin will freeze in only 2 to 5 minutes.
Wind chill can play a major role in frostbite and hypothermia. To avoid that, dress warmly, cover exposed skin, check the conditions before you go outside, and don't let that wind chill you. All right, so now you know. And I didn't freeze. I bundled up before I was out in the cold there. So wind chill, we're talking about freeze times as we head into the morning hours. Tomorrow we have those extreme cold warnings in place for southern and central Manitoba. So for southern Manitoba, -41 wind chill in Winnipeg tomorrow morning. More like -43 into the Westman region. That is frostbite on exposed skin in 5 to 10 minutes. Not as cold, but certainly still chilly into parts of northern Manitoba, looking at wind chills -35 to about -38 overnight into the morning hours. So doesn't mean it's not going to be cold in northern Manitoba, just it doesn't quite meet that criteria for an extreme cold warning. And look at this. I know this maybe looks a little bit depressing if you're not a fan of the cold weather, but this is our 10-day temperature trend. As always, this is one model's depiction of our temperatures over the next 10 days here, staying below seasonal even toward the end of the month, and some of the longer range models, I mean, it gets less accurate the further out you go, are showing us remaining below seasonal even into the end of the month. So we're looking at a prolonged period of temperatures below seasonal. In the immediate future, that's because of a ridge of high pressure that's really allowing the jet stream here to sink south into the United States, allowing some of that cold Arctic air, some of these pink colors to really set in to southern Manitoba. The pinks into that -25, -30 range. So some very cold air will continue to rotate around the prairie provinces as we get through the rest of the week, into the weekend, and even into the U.S. Midwest, into the Plains states, looking at temperatures below seasonal right through the weekend. So settle in for some colder than seasonal temperatures, really to stick with us here for the foreseeable future. Not a lot to show you on Futurecast. The trade-off is mostly sunny skies, a little bit of high-level cloud hanging around. Other than that, we're into the sunshine, but cold conditions. You see into Wednesday, we do mix in a little bit of cloud cover. This brings with it a slight chance of maybe some flurries, but other than that, really not a lot to talk about on Futurecast. Tomorrow morning, waking up to -31s through Brandon, Melita, -29 in Winnipeg, -27 in Swan River first thing. Factoring in the wind, close to or below -40 first thing in the morning. So one of those mornings where you really want to make sure the kids are dressed up and really bundled up to head off to school tomorrow morning. We get to -20 in Winnipeg tomorrow afternoon, -20 for Wednesday, Brittany, and temperatures not getting warmer than -19.
I'm shaking my head at
I'm
you.
so sorry.
Thanks, Riley. We have much more to come when we get back. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. U.S. President Donald Trump has officially announced 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports, including those from Canada.
It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions, and that's all countries, no matter where it comes from, all countries.
Both the steel and aluminum sectors in Canada are highly dependent on the U.S. markets, and Canada has been the single largest supplier of aluminum to the United States. Australia's Prime Minister says Trump has agreed to consider an exemption for steel tariffs on his country. The latest U.S. tariff announcement came as a surprise on Sunday. The Trudeau government is holding its cards close to its chest over Canada's response to Trump's latest tariff threats. But opposition leaders and premiers are not holding back on what they want to see done. Evan Dyer has more.
The Trudeau government kept its powder dry today, perhaps awaiting a formal announcement of tariffs from a president known for making dramatic threats and then changing his mind. But opposition leaders did speak, including Conservative Pierre Poilievre, on a visit to Iqaluit.
We will retaliate in kind with matching tariffs on American aluminum and steel, all of the proceeds of which will be given back to our steel and aluminum industry.
Poilievre promised retaliation to Trump, but laid the blame at the door of his Canadian rivals.
A radical environmental agenda that sought to deliberately defund Canada's energy sector. That has been Mark Carney's radical agenda that Justin Trudeau has been implementing dutifully over the last 5 years. This agenda was wrong before. It is an existential threat to every Canadian's job now.
New Democrat Jagmeet Singh spent the day in Windsor, one of Canada's most vulnerable cities, and also hit the U.S. news shows.
Donald Trump only understands force. He's acted as a bully in many circumstances, and now he's acting as an economic bully. The only language that bullies understand is the language of strength.
Singh proposed a response already suggested by Liberal leadership contender Chrystia Freeland, targeting the business of Trump's most important collaborator.
What I would do is put in place a 100% tariff on Tesla, directly targeting Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk is proudly touting this idea of the 51st state, so let's hit back at Elon Musk. I've also said we should shut down the supply of critical minerals, another move that directly targets Elon Musk and his Tesla company.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he also supports retaliation and warned Ontarians not to take Trump's threats lightly.
He said annexing Canada is a real thing. Those are his words. I know it's hard to hear. I know you want to, make sure and hope it's all bluster and all talk, but this threat is real.
Canada's been down this road before with a 25% tariff on steel and 10% on aluminum during Donald Trump's first term. On that occasion, the Canadian industry weathered the storm. This time, Canada is waiting to see if the rest of its economy will join the metals sector under tariffs a few weeks from now. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
As calls to buy local grow louder, some Manitoba businesses are reaping the benefits of higher demand. Sheepdog Brew specializes in cold brew coffee. Its owner says roughly 15 stores have reached out in the past week alone looking to stock his products. It comes on the heels of a recently inked deal with Sobeys and Safeway to get their products on their shelves across the country.
I think as this more nationalist movement goes on, we're going to see more of those big businesses looking to support other Canadian brands. And I really hope that we're there to ride that wave along with them.
Patent 5 Distillery is also seeing an uptick in interest. Its co-owner tells CBC he wants to see more incentives between provinces to promote interprovincial trade. The municipal and federal governments are teaming up to help fund new home construction in Winnipeg. A second round of grants for the Housing Accelerator Fund has been announced. It includes $25 million in capital grants to 12 local projects. One of those is the North End Women's Centre on Selkirk Avenue. The executive director says there's a critical need to help women in the North End have a safe place to live.
Which will double our transitional housing capacity. What is even more exciting about this is that the new building will be built on the parking lot that you would have saw on your way in. It will have wraparound supports in place, which will support people in everything from counseling, parenting programs, life skill development.
Other projects include a 144-unit apartment by Broken Head Ojibwe Nation Development Corporation and a project providing 32 units of rent geared to income housing supporting Black residents. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says he would build at least one permanent Arctic military base within 2 years if he's elected. Poilievre says this is necessary due to the rising threat from countries including China.
Hostile powers want our resources, our shipping routes, and to be in striking distance of our continent. Let me be clear. The Canadian Arctic belongs to Canadians, and Canadians will take back control of their Arctic waters, Arctic skies, and Arctic land.
He also says his government would purchase 4 heavy icebreakers, 2 for the Coast Guard and 2 for the Navy. Air Canada has admitted it had no record of a handful of passengers that took its flights in recent years. They call the incidents rare and a technological malfunction, but others call it a safety concern. CBC's Erica Johnson has more in a Go Public investigation.
Hi, Auntie Ha.
Montreal's Yukhar Lim doesn't speak English, so her niece is helping to tell her story. Lim recently took a trip to Europe, but when she tried to check in to fly home from Budapest, learned Air Canada had deemed she didn't show up for an earlier flight on her itinerary and cancelled her return ticket, standard policy amongst airlines. Except Lim says she wasn't a no-show. Her niece translates.
I was very scared and I did not know what to do.
Desperate to get on the plane, Lim shelled out almost $2,600. Later, tried to get compensation, but the airline insisted it had no record of her boarding the plane. Go Public has learned of 5 other Air Canada passengers, all also incorrectly deemed no-shows. Their return tickets also cancelled. The airline insisted that Dan Ratkoff and his family never flew to Calgary for their ski trip, despite boarding passes, even a selfie on the plane.
I think it was 3 or 4 times that I was told that I am not in Alberta and that I didn't show up at that airport.
Christopher Bailey's flight from St. John's to Vancouver was cancelled, so he sued and learned the airline couldn't even find his seat. 34A did not show on its flight manifest. An Air Canada spokesperson said these cases are extremely rare and due to a human error or technological malfunction. Incorrect flight records can be a major safety concern, say experts, who point to rare cases of aviation emergencies, like the recent crash in Washington.
People are trying to rescue those people, and if they don't know how many people are in the water, how do they know when they have them all?
An Air Canada spokesperson said safety was in no way compromised, but repeatedly declined to address what might happen in an emergency. The airline said it will reach out to the customers it incorrectly deemed as no-shows to rectify the situation and apologize. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
A new blockbuster in theaters is tackling a familiar premise, a human-like robot that goes bad. Magda Gebrselassie looks at the Hollywood appeal and whether those robots are still just fiction.
Companion is a romantic thriller with a human-like robot. It's the latest in a long list of bots on the big screen. And now humanoids are appearing in real life too.
Robots and AI that are indistinguishable from humans.
Aria, the AI-equipped humanoid, was at this electronics show in Las Vegas in January. The Canadian tech company that made her sold about a dozen like her so far.
They're really there to act as a companion. Maybe they can work for you as a concierge, a greeter at a retail store.
In North Bay, Ontario, humanoids of a different kind have popped up too. Hi, Henry. Canadore College is running a social robots program to interact with seniors.
I think that's a good way of, learning stuff.
Now, older adults like Henry are being trained to take the robots out into the community.
Our older adults live a very real experience of being isolated and lonely. So to have a robot operated by a human being as a way to engage with them, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
This academic studies the pros and cons of human-robot relationships. She says privacy is a consideration with the microphone and camera-equipped robots. But on the plus side is a benefit to brain health.
for children experiencing stressful situations, for families, for older adults in various living arrangements. We're seeing a lot of benefit.
But Hollywood paints a darker picture. For decades, deathbots from the Terminator to Megan have lit up screens. In reality, it's not robots we should fear, says this expert.
Need to be scared only if the person who programmed them to do something very specific that is bad.
Shut her down already. Good or bad, he says we're still decades away from humanoids walking among us. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
How are you spending these cold winter days? Are you curled up inside or curling outside? We catch up with some residents having fun on the Assiniboine River. We're back with that right after the break. Stay with us. It is winter, and we know Manitobans are hardy and we are built for it, but when you're in the midst of it and these frigid cold temperatures, some of us just want to stay indoors.
I know. Some Manitobans, though, are choosing to get creative about how they spend their winters. CBC's Jim Agapito shows us how some Wolseley residents are having fun on the Assiniboine River.
Oh, it's right the button. Oh, good block. Hi, I'm Sam Yoshida. We're in Wolseley on the Assiniboine River. You can call it a winter wonderland. Yeah, I mean, it kind of evolved over the years, like since COVID. Oh my! Kind of brought, you know, a lot of creation out of people, and yeah, just a bunch of friends coming together and doing stuff. Oh no, I bumped you in. This year we currently have a shuffleboard table made out of ice. We have a curling rink that we use frozen milk jugs to curl with, a little fire pit, some hay bales, and probably close to about 200 Christmas trees that we collected from the neighborhood.
How did you make this ice shuffleboard?
So this is just a form I made out of 2x4 and plywood, and we fill it up with water from the river, let it freeze, and then we kind of glue it together with slush and snow. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, it serves multiple purposes with the shuffleboard, and you know, like just as a bar top. So yeah.
And you guys also have a full curling rink.
Yeah,
How'd
we
you do that?
Yeah. So yeah, we just clear it, we flooded it, and then we actually paint circles on there and then flood it again.
My name's Mark Dewar and I live across the street. We don't have fancy rocks. We just fill up a milk jug, or empty milk jug, because we go through like a whole pile of these, and you just fill them with water and food coloring, and then there are your curling rocks, right at the button. When I was a kid, my parents grew up on the Assiniboine River just a little further in St. James, and every year they would do these big rinks and things on the ice, and everybody would haul their Christmas trees down after the after the Christmas was done, and you know, we'd have these big rinks with big trees around them and stuff, and at the end of the year we'd burn them all. Right to the button, right to the button. Oh, he's gonna get us! Oh no! Oh, what we got? What we got? I think a red one.
How many people come?
Well, it's just our kind of group of friends right now. I mean, it's open, like people come by and check it out. A lot of times we're just kind of hanging out here and folks roll by. Oh yeah. And you know, all of the guys that kind of do this, we all have kids, so you come down here, and you know, and then the adults come and do their curling tournaments in the evening.
Nice shot, James.
It's kind of a battle royal between the couples that live in the neighborhood, because we have this milk jug trophy, because it's milk jug curling. If you win that, you get to put it in your front yard so that everybody can see it.
It depends on the couples, but it can get pretty competitive. We usually have a tournament at some point through the year.
How many times have you won?
Not enough. It's you, Sam. Sam's the guy who's got it hands down.
I've won twice. Yeah.
How does that
about
feel?
4 years. Oh, it feels great. My neighbor across the street has won it, and he's displayed it proudly in his window. You know, so every time I come out the front door, I see it.
Great bragging rights.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you get people to come out when it's maybe a little bit colder?
You make it warm. You have a fire. You do things where you're moving around. You just have a good time.
Let's see how we do this.
It's a meeting point where you can all come down here and have some fun.
We're not very, see, it's all luck. We're not very good at this.
I mean, it's open to whoever wants to come in and enjoy it. We leave the milk jugs down here. People come in and just kind of take a look and admire it. And if they want, they can play a game of curling or shuffleboard.
What message do you give to Manitobans in order to enjoy winter more?
I mean, we got to live with it. Might as well have fun doing it. That's the thing. So get out there and do stuff. You can't be shut in all winter long.
It's so true.
Yes.
You can't stay in all winter long. Winter is too long. Love to see people coming up with ways to really get outdoors and enjoy it.
Exactly. Our friends at InfoRad, Information Radio, are doing this Show Us Your Winter contest. We want to see what you've been up to make the season a little bit more bearable, and you can win a CBC prize pack.
Yeah, we just got to go out there and maybe play somebody to see who the winner is.
And go up on the roof.
Yeah.
We're looking at a couple of cold mornings ahead, but dress for the weather if you're heading out. It's not that bad if you dress for it. But, you know, I thought we'd bring back the catnapping forecast just for today for now, because we are looking at a cold night ahead, a cold morning ahead for many of us across the province. I think Zizou, I hope I pronounced that right, is going to be enjoying a few extra hours in the bed tomorrow. Thanks, Yulia, for sending that picture. And you can send your dogs, your cats, your pets to talkback at cbc.ca. So we're looking at minus 29 first thing in the morning. South winds 15 gusting to 30. Wind chill closer to minus 40 across southern Manitoba. Minus 20 by the afternoon and minus 19 by the time we get to the evening. Maybe we get to that in the evening, but an afternoon temperature more like minus 20 across at least most of southern Manitoba. We'll get into your provincial forecast in just a moment here. Look at our daytime highs. This minus 17 in Winnipeg, a little bit deceiving from today because we hit this temperature at midnight. Actually, we have fallen since then throughout the afternoon hours, actually hovering around minus 19 this afternoon in Winnipeg. Minus 23 this afternoon in Brandon, Thompson, minus 21 this afternoon. Overnight tonight, dropping into the minus 30s through Westman, minus 31 in Brandon, minus 32 in Virden. Minus 27s for Swan River and Dauphin. This is where we'll get those wind chill values down to about minus 43 by the early morning, which means frostbite on exposed skin in less than 10 minutes, closer to 5 minutes into the early morning. Minus 30 in Winnipeg, Pinawa minus 31, Kenora minus 30 overnight tonight. Temperatures slightly warmer because we have a little bit more cloud cover into northern Manitoba through the overnight hours. Minus 26 in the Pas, minus 27 in Thompson, Gillam and Shamattawa also looking at minus 27. That cloud cover in northern Manitoba acting like a little bit of a blanket, keeping some of that heat, what little heat there is, kind of locked in through the overnight hours. We do see some cloud cover to start the day, but we will get a little bit of clearing into northern Manitoba as we get into the daytime tomorrow. So by the afternoon hours, minus 22 in Thompson, minus 21s through Flin Flon, the Pas. Maybe some peaks of sunshine up the western edge of the province tomorrow. Minus 24 in Churchill, minus 22 in Gillam. Into the south, mainly sunny and cold throughout the day tomorrow. Again, starting the day tomorrow into the minus 30s for Brandon, Virden, Melita, minus 26 in Dauphin first thing. Winnipeg, we're up to about minus 22 by lunchtime, minus 22, minus 24 into northwestern Ontario. Temperatures don't go that far throughout the day tomorrow. Minus 20 in Winnipeg by the afternoon. Maybe we get some minus 17s, minus 18s, Brittany, but still these temperatures still about 10 degrees off of seasonal. I'll have your 7-day forecast. Still.
All right. Thank you, Riley. And now the latest in our special series of stories produced by filmmaking students in the CREATE program at Sisler High School. It's in collaboration with CBC Manitoba. Orion Remaquillo developed Tourette's syndrome as a child, but the now 19-year-old hasn't let his diagnosis stop him. For him, it's his superpower, and he's using it to help others. Here's his story.
I mean, it kind of just like makes me embrace, just not fitting in. Standing out, like having Tourette's, like you're always going to be like not with the crowd and kind of like against the crowd. You're different, and having Tourette's kind of taught me how to embrace being different. And at the same time, like as those things are kind of like a curse, it's also kind of like a blessing too that I have them because it makes me different than anyone else.
My name is Orion Remaquillo. I'm a 2023 Terry Fox Scholar. I'm an assistant here with the men's basketball team at the University of Winnipeg Westman, and I'm living with Tourette's syndrome. I noticed my symptoms, or my family, was when probably I was about 7. We were on a trip in Orange County, California. And I can remember vividly that we went to Disneyland and we went to an Angels game there, and I could vividly remember just not being able to control myself in a crowd, not being able to handle myself. I'd have, things that would happen to me, like I'd swear and I couldn't control it, or I'd like flip people off in the distance, but I wasn't directing it towards them, but I just couldn't control it. And I could remember so vividly that like my godfather was, telling me to stop, but I had to explain to him, like, for some reason, I can't stop doing what I'm doing right now.
Tourette's disorder is a disorder of tics. So with Tourette's, you have the presence of at least 2 motor tics and at least 1 vocal tic. For the most part, kids, particularly under the age of 13, don't know that they're doing tics. They're not aware of them. As kids get older, they become more aware, and they can start to sort of feel an urge prior to those tics. That's called a premonitory urge.
The way that I like to explain Tourette's syndrome to people, and to people that don't know about it or what that is, picture you have a mosquito bite. Now, we all know it's bad to scratch the mosquito bite, but at the same time, you know that you can't control it. You have to itch it. That's what Tourette's syndrome is basically like. It's like an uncontrollable itch.
They get worse, they follow broad patterns where they're worse in times of both excitement and stress. They are almost always worse in like September when school's starting, they're worse over the holidays. They tend to be better during the summer when kids are a little bit more stress-free. And yeah.
You get some dirty looks or people approach you like, hey, stop that. And my mom always advocated for me. She always stuck up for me in situations like that. So, you know, I owe it all to my mom for being there throughout my childhood for me in terms of my disability and all that.
It's really hard as a kid. It's even harder as a parent, right? Because you can't explain it to everybody that you meet. You know, at the end of the day, he's going to have to stand up and advocate for himself. And you know that what your responsibility is to make sure that you build up enough confidence in him that he can advocate for himself, that he can stand up for himself.
Last like 3-4 years, I've just been volunteering with the kids at the special needs or resources department at my old high school, Garden State Collegiate. It started as I was just gonna volunteer with these kids just to get my volunteer hours up. And from there on, like I had volunteered so many hours just helping them out. And then I started to realize like I actually enjoy working with people like me. Acknowledging that I have Tourette's and acknowledging what makes me me and just trying to stand out from the crowd and just be my own person. So Tourette's is my superpower.
Still ahead, game on. Athletes lace up their skates to celebrate the Lunar New Year. Plus, Riley has a last check on our very cold forecast. We're back right after this. Stay with us.
So your Tuesday, very similar to what we had today across southern Manitoba. Sunny but cold. We're looking at -20 by the afternoon in Winnipeg. Wind chill feeling closer to -41 first thing in the morning. Winds also pretty similar to today, west 15 gusting to about 30 through the afternoon hours. The temperatures stay cold for the rest of the work week. -20 for Wednesday, Thursday, -19, maybe some flurries into Friday. Look at these overnight temperatures into the -30s for Tuesday into the rest of the work weekend. Temperatures stay very seasonal. Not very seasonal, very similar is what I've been trying to get out with barely getting over -19. I know, it sucks. 4 teams of athletes laced up their skates to celebrate the Lunar New Year in Winnipeg over the weekend. The 4-day tournament was organized by the Winnipeg Emperors Hockey Club.
It's about promoting diversity and inclusivity in sport. The participants' shared passion for hockey and cultural pride is our daily lift.
This is the Lunar New Year tournament, hockey tournament. It's the 3rd year, and what it is an event to celebrate the Lunar New Year holiday and also to celebrate the game of hockey.
It's something that everybody celebrates, even though they celebrate it differently. We come together for the hockey part of it.
It helps us, bring the sport to all the other different ethnicities in, I guess, Canada or Winnipeg.
People who might not have played minor hockey and they grew up and they start hockey later, and they may start rec later. And so it gives them an opportunity also to play in a tournament.
As somebody who didn't get to start playing hockey until their adult years, it's great to play organized hockey because I never got to experience this when I was young. It's very common. I have a son who plays hockey now, and tournaments are a part of organized hockey, which I never got to experience. The representation isn't really for them. I think it's more for the adults, so that the parents feel like I could put my kid into that. They could work out in hockey.
All right, see you at home.
One bonus of this cold snap, no threat of those outdoor rinks thawing.
Not at all. See, there are good things. The cold does bring cold.
Lots of opportunity for people to get outside,
Yes.
get out onto the river, out onto the rink, enjoy it, but make sure you're dressed for it.
Exactly. Bundle up. That's all I got to say. Bundle up.
Exactly. Stay warm. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Have a great night.
Have a good one.